At Midway USA, we put customers first. The Nitro Express shipping system is icing on the cake. It was a big investment of time and money to take super fast, low-cost shipping to a whole new level. The Nitro Express helps ensure same-day shipping and low shipping cost. We hope you enjoy the Nitro Express. We built it just for you. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com. I'm Larry Potterfield with Midway USA. Thanks for your business.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
Every year, the holidays leave people with the same problem. Leftovers that slowly migrate to the back of the fridge until eventually they become a science experiment. But if you hunt, fish, or forage, leftovers aren't a burden, they're an opportunity. Leftover roast goose becomes a whole new meal. Extra venison from the freezer becomes brunch. That container of mashed potatoes, that's not trash. That's the start of a wild game shepherd's pie that could feed a small village. Wild food leftovers don't just stretch ingredients, they stretch stories. Every scrap has a second life if you know what to do with it. This episode, we're going to dive into ingredients and leftovers from the holidays in order to really, truly stretch those meals and get every ounce out of your wild food. Grab a drink, grab a seat, listen up.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
With the holidays in full swing, a lot of us are or will be staring down refrigerators packed with leftovers. Not just turkey and ham, but wild game roasts, smoked fish, mashed potatoes, gravies, cranberry sauces, and all the little bits and pieces that somehow end up in containers that you don't even remember filling. This episode will cap off our Wild Kitchen series, where we've explored wild possibilities for everyday foods. Some of the past episodes include tacos, pasta, casseroles, stir-fry salads, and so much more. Be sure to go back and listen to them. Check out the entire series if you haven't already. But back to leftovers. Most people see leftovers as an obligation, something you have to get through. But in the wild food world, leftovers are a chance to be creative. They're ingredients that already have flavor built in. Ingredients that still have a story attached. So today, we're going to talk about how to take those holiday scraps, plus whatever wild food is sitting around in your fridge or freezer, and turn them into fun, exciting new dishes. No reruns, not reheats, actual transformations. We'll dig into all that good stuff you don't want to waste. If your fridge looks like a chaotic archaeological dig right now, this episode's for you. Let's get into it, Adam.
Thanks, Justin. Holiday leftovers are pretty impressive on their own, and I feel that way anyways. I love having a good hot or cold sandwich with the leftover turkey and everything. But when you mix in wild game, that's actually where things really start to get fun. Most households are dealing with like turkey legs and stuffing and mashed potatoes and whatever, but folks like us end up with leftover roast goose, venison roast, wild duck, maybe smoked trout. You never know. And that's all sitting next to the cranberry sauce. Let's start with waterfowl, because leftover duck and goose is practically a gift. They have so much depth that transforms easily into new dishes. You can shred it into goose fried rice. You can crisp it up for duck hash topped with eggs. Fold it into tacos with leftover cranberry sauce as a salsa. You can simmer it into a goose or duck and barley soup that tastes like a medieval feast. And it's not just waterfowl. Venison is also the same. Those nice big venison roasts that you cooked up for your holiday dinner. Once it's cold, try slicing it thin or shredding it, and suddenly you've got venison pot pie, shepherd's pie, stroganoff, or even a wild venison version of Philly cheesesteak. If you got leftover gravy, even better, it just becomes a sauce. It's all pretty easy. But don't sleep on those holiday ham bones. We've got a lot of good wild ham recipes on Harvest of Nature, and including venison ham and wild pig ham. And those bones, after you're done eating and cooking with that, those are just engines of flavor. Just toss one of those in a pot of beans or split peas or even black-eyed peas for Hop and John, and you got an entire new meal pretty much effortlessly. There's so much flavor packed into them. But one place, wild fish, is where things get really surprising. A lot of people don't even consider fish leftovers as something that's edible. But I know, Justin, that this space is where you always bring great ideas from that wild fish space, especially when it comes to using leftovers creatively. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, leftover fish, that's, I would say, probably one of the most overlooked leftovers out there. People think leftover fish is off limits or that it won't reheat well, but that's only true if you try to serve it the same way it was cooked. Transform it, though, and you'll unlock a whole list of dishes. Leftover cooked fish, think about trout, walleye, pike, perch, salmon, becomes fish cakes, croquettes, fish tacos, easily transforms into creamy chowders, fish salad, stuffed baked potatoes, break it down into flakes, and suddenly it becomes a building block for quick meals. Smoked fish, even better. Smoked trout dip is one of the great I have 5 minutes appetizers, and I'll tell you, like, from a family that eats a lot of fish throughout the week, the smoked fish dip is one of the first things to get consumed no matter what else is in the refrigerator. You can also fold smoked fish into breakfast scrambles, build rice bowls, or mix it with herbs and cream cheese for a wild holiday bagel spread, which is pretty fun. Fish leftovers are also one of the easiest ways to elevate the day after meals without feeling like you're eating repeats. What kind of mistakes do you think people are making when it comes to leftovers, Adam?
I think the biggest mistake people make with leftovers is actually like trying to recreate that original dish. That's inevitably going to be disappointing. Unless maybe there's a caveat, unless it's a slow cooked meal like stewed chili or something like that, which actually tastes better if you let them cool down and reheat them. They're the rare case where a lack of transformation is almost a benefit. I think most things, if you just like grab a plate of stuff and nuke it for 5 minutes, it's going to be soggy and all the textures are going to be off. The flavors aren't going to be, they're going to be muted. But transforming it, that's where the real key is. I think shredding, or just a second, I think that transformation, which I've called the transformation rule, you change the form, the texture, or the context so the leftover becomes something new. So focus on that, changing the form, like shredding it, changing the texture, or changing the entire context and creating a whole new dish. That's where leftovers really become exciting again. Just make sure you follow that transformation rule. And I think shredding leftover meat is probably the easiest transformation out of all of them. So shredded venison or goose or wild pork behaves totally different than like cold slices that you just eat cold or throw in the microwave. After shredding it, it's now ready for like tacos or dumplings or hashes or fried rice or sandwiches or some other beautiful transformation. Another one is grinding leftovers. So people usually just consider grinding raw meat, but you can grind or finely chop up cooked meat as well. That's something you can definitely do. And doing that, you can, like, that something becomes a filling for, you know, like patties or sauce, like a meaty sauce or gravy, stuffed dumplings or stuffed pasta like ravioli. You can really transform things by doing that, and it comes out so different it's almost, you can't even recognize it. Also, wrapping is a great transformation. You can make dumplings, like I said, use phyllo, tortillas, puff pastry, rice paper. It's really a magic trick. You can put almost anything into a new wrapper and suddenly it feels intentional instead of accidental. So, you know, like you can make spring rolls. You can chop up leftovers, make them into spring or egg rolls, whatever you call them where you live. Or the fresh rolls. I call them fresh rolls, but they're often known as spring rolls elsewhere. The Vietnamese kind of summer rolls. Another transformation you do is crisping things up, which is one of my favorites. Give any leftover meat a quick pan fry in fat, and it develops a crust that makes it feel brand new, totally good. The texture changes, the flavor changes, everything about it changes. A little bit of flaky salt, it's always delicious. So this method is really good for repurposing meat into like stir fries or sandwich fillings or hash once again. Breakfast sides, replacing bacon. A little bit of fried wild turkey on the side of your eggs instead of bacon is actually pretty fun. Or like my case is just generally dip it in some sort of sauce or salt and eat it right over the sink out of the pan because it's so delicious. There's also something to be said about cold leftover meat and fish as well. Instead of reheating a medium rare venison roast, like if you didn't do the pot roast, you did that kind of nice, beautiful medium rare leg roast. Maybe try slicing it thin and stacking it into a sandwich, like a cold cut roast beef kind of sandwich. You can also eat it cold, dipped into pungent sauces. I really like Asian sauces for this, like ponzu or soy-based sauce or chili crisp or something like that. And fish is the same. You could break up cold leftover fish, flake it up, toss it with some mayo, lemon, and olive oil, or something more pungent like a Vietnamese nak cham, which is just like it's like the sauce for your spring rolls, which is like lime, fish sauce, garlic, sugar, and chilies. Leche de tigre, which is generally found with Peruvian ceviches, but also is really good on flake cooked fish. That's just lime, oil, chili, and garlic. You can throw in some other aromatics too. So all those are really good. So don't sleep on the cold either, because cold, you can still transform leftovers while being cold, but maybe not mashed potatoes.
I don't know. Mashed potatoes, I think, are probably the most versatile leftover in the holiday lineup. They definitely need to be transformed after being taken out of the fridge, though. But mashed potatoes can be recooked. They can become potato pancakes. You can make gnocchi out of them. One of my favorites are like Cuban-style croquettes, shepherd's pie topping, or even mashed potato waffles. That's a fun one. Which are incredible if you take some of that gravy and pour all over the top of it. Other leftovers, like roasted vegetables, are easy. Chop them up and toss them into a quick fried rice. Hash frittatas are great. Or blend them into a soup with a little stock and seasoning for a quick winter lunch. That can range from anything to, once again, using a bit of gravy to flavor that with some stock, or you can just go straight Asian style with leaning towards either like a pho stock or looking at other Japanese style seafood stocks or like all kinds of stuff. Those vegetables are great. Also, too, you've got the stuffing, right? I don't know that everybody always eats the stuffing, but it's practically begging to be reinvented. And you can use stuffing again for waffles. We're just going to waffle everything.
Yeah, why not?
You can make stuffing muffins or stuffing dumplings. One of my favorite is to take stuffing, wrap it around a boiled egg, bread it, and fry it into kind of a holiday version of Scotch egg. Another great one, too, I like to do is like holiday burritos. Definitely not Mexican cuisine at all, but you just take all your leftovers and put inside of a tortilla and eat that, and that's pretty phenomenal. Cranberry sauce, I think it's kind of a sleeper ingredient. You can make vinaigrettes out of it. You can mix it into yogurt or use it as a bright, tangy condiment for leftover sandwiches or burritos. The leftovers go even deeper than what we see on the table. Adam, can you talk a bit about the wild offal and the bones that a lot of people overlook? This kind of starts before we even get into the dinner.
Yeah, often some of the best leftovers never even make it to the table at all. They're the bones, the carcasses, the hearts and livers and gizzards from wild game that end up in bags, bowls, or even in the trash during prep. So think if you're like carving a whole turkey or a whole goose or duck, you're going to end up with that carcass, those big venison leg bones on a bone-in roast, even fish carcasses, some of the organ meats that come with game, or if you're getting something from a store, turkey will often come with like hearts and livers and gizzards and stuff. All that stuff is super useful, especially the bones. Those leftover bones are gold. So goose, duck, venison bones, like I said, fish frames. These become the stocks and broths that turn your leftover meals into something extraordinary. So pot of venison bone broth or goose neck stock can become ramen or stew or pot pies or whatever, you name it. It's going to add so much more flavor to it. It's going to build those flavors and layer those flavors. It's always worth doing it. Offal leftovers are also a lot of fun, like goose hearts diced into fried rice, venison heart tacos with lime and onions, or leftover liver turned into pate. All these dishes kind of taste like you planned them from the beginning, but they can just be kind of made with leftover whatevers, You got a leftover gizzard in there. You can braise it or confit it or fry it. You can turn it into like dirty rice. You can really anchor an entire meal if you give these things a second life and don't just treat them like a cast off,
What I think, too, don't be afraid to use Christmas leftovers for New Year's feasts.
Yeah, definitely. It's an expensive time of year, and like harnessing the power of leftovers can be time and money saver for sure. There's also the leftovers in quotes from, harvesting wild edibles all year, which is something I run into. I got frozen berries, I got blanched or frozen nettles and other greens, I got dried mushrooms pushed into the very back of my pantry that I'm going to forget about until next harvest year, Instead of letting these things kind of languish in your freezer and pantry until you're harvesting more and adding more to the pile, this is a great time to use them up. So blanched greens, so like nettles or lamb's quarters or any other kind of wild green, they can just creamed straight up as a delicious wild side, stirred into mashed potatoes. There's a Dutch and Belgian dish called stemppot, which is basically just mashed potatoes with mixed greens, and it's good, hearty, standard, delicious kind of thing. So you can really spruce up your mashed potatoes. I even have a recipe actually for spruce tip mashed potatoes on the entrepreneur.com if you want to check it out. You can mix those greens into soups, stews, cook them into muffins, add them to pastas or cold pasta salads. You can stir them into dips, kind of like a spinach artichoke dip with pumpernickel. Maybe skip the spinach and throw in nettles instead. You can blend them into smoothies as an antidote for holiday overeating, which is, I think I need an antidote every year for holiday overeating. And also they can be cooked into brunchy egg dishes like omelets or frittatas or layer and eggs benedict. You often have your house full of people and they're there for breakfast too. So that stuff can be used for breakfast. Those frozen berries you have can be cooked down for desserts or toppings for pancakes or French toast. They can be turned into syrups, cocktails. The cures, I just found a big bag of pin cherries I collected in the summer that was taking up space in my freezer. So I poured them into a bottle of vodka, mixed in some sugar, and in a month or two, I'm going to have some delicious liqueur out of that. You can also make a hybrid holiday sauce by mixing some of these other frozen berries with your cranberry sauce. So like service berries or raspberries or stuff like that. Creates like kind of a sweet and bitter fruit sauce that goes really good with wild game like duck, goose, or venison, or turkey, as we know cranberry sauce does. Those dried mushrooms can be made into umami-rich gravies, added to egg dishes, soup stews, chopped up, ground into meat dishes. The possibilities of second lives are really endless here.
In Walmart's Newville, time was ticking away. Only a few nights left till the big holiday. But last-minute gifters had no need to worry. Walmart Express Delivery got their gifts in a hurry. From Nintendo to Nespresso and Lego flowers, they could check off their lists in as fast as an hour. All of Newville, East, West, South, and North could order gifts up until 5 p.m. on December 24th. So this holiday, just do as the Who's do. With gift delivery this fast, they all gasped. From Walmart? Who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
Let's get into why using up those leftovers is actually pretty important. It's not just the kind of whatever thing in the back of your fridge.
Yes, you don't accidentally end up with a freezer full of venison. Wild food costs time, money, energy, risk. You invest time in learning, all these things. Paying for tags, you're devoting time to scouting, you're traveling, you're spending hours processing. There's also the emotional strain of failures and success. All these are like investment points, which some are positive, some negative, all part of the process regardless. And I think really, if you contrast this with sort of that like anonymous grocery store protein that doesn't really have a story or a connection, then you solidify the fact that wild food is earned, so therefore waste feels different. The responsibility doesn't end the kill shot. It continues through the processing, through storage, through cooking, through reuse. How many times have you or someone you known felt that saddened, broken heart, deep of gut feeling when your freezer unplugs or power goes out or you lose a whole batch?
Nightmares of that.
Yeah. So in essence, that like value, that effort, all those things that we put, and just the love and taste and flavor and everything, the energy, the excitement, once we start to cook those and then we still have those leftovers, those are a form of follow-through rather than just extra waste. So making sure that we're using the whole product. We talk a lot about whole animal, but even just the use of the whole product once it's prepared, I think becomes really, really essential. I know I've reached back at something in the fridge that I thought was going to be good for a second round, and only to pop open the container and find maybe it smells a bit funky or it's a bit moldy, and you have to toss it in the garbage. But you definitely think twice. Is this really the place I want to put this, or can I try to squeeze one more thing out of it? Can I just scrape it off and reheat it? That's sometimes not a possibility. And so trying to get ahead of the waste is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. And waste is such a modern concept. Like, it didn't really even exist, I don't think, in the world until convenience kind of existed. Like, we have refrigeration now, making everything super abundant, but that creates complacency. We're not working so hard to keep the food that we have alive. Before refrigeration, you'd have to work much harder at processing things to keep them from spoiling, or repurposing what you made for lunch or for dinner so it doesn't go to waste. You couldn't afford to waste it. But that really shows that modern waste is a lot more psychological than it is logistical, because we have all these ways to make things last much longer, and food waste has gone beyond anything that's ever existed in the past. But I think that wild food, because of what you mentioned, it's not the anonymous, plastic or styrofoam tray from the grocery store. Like, wild food forces us to confront the value of ingredients. We can't turn a blind eye to it anymore, because part of that value all came from us going out and getting them. Reframing those wild leftovers changes your shopping and your hunting and your cooking habits. It leaves you with more food, and it makes you think about that animal from the first scouting mission right to cleaning your plates at the end of the night. This really fits in with intentional eating habits, which I think goes hand in hand with wild food. So much more intentional. And I remember that some of these constraints, I know leftovers are sometimes harder to deal with than the original dish, but some of those restraints really breed creativity. So intentionally transforming leftovers kind of teaches us more about seasoning and balance and adaptation and improvisation, and really adds to a lot of our cooking skills. I would say that wild cooks become better cooks because leftovers demand thinking, because that wild food is harder to cook and demands more thinking and more intention. So I really think that wild food and leftovers, and particularly wild leftovers, really does make you a better cook.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
Finish your fantasy lineup?
No, but I'm joining this paid group chat with insider info.
Dude, seriously? Forward it to me. Security alert from McAfee. That group's as legit as that knockoff jersey you're wearing.
McAfee's scam detector is available in all McAfee plans for as little as $39.99 for your first year. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
So what do you think, Justin? Should we do some rapid fire leftover transformations for listeners, just to give them some quick inspiration?
I think so. Here's one for you. Leftover roasts like venison, turkey, wild pig, duck, or goose. It can be sliced, chopped, ground, or shredded and becomes things like hot or cold sandwiches with other holiday sides, pot pie, shepherd's pie, barley stew. You can do packaged ramen, and that turns it into like a cooked homemade ramen. I think Philly cheesesteaks, stacked sliders, breakfast hash, tacos or quesadillas. Ooh, quesadillas. Fried rice, debris with meat gravies, stuffing for Chinese bao, lasagnas, pasta bakes, banh mi sandwiches, other types of subs, spring rolls or egg rolls, risottos, curries, croquettes, fritters, tamales. Ooh, yes. Chili, hand pies, pasties, pizza toppers. I think that's pretty comprehensive. If you don't take away from that, then just turn off the show.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, what do you got?
Let's do leftover fish. So we mentioned some, but we can do fish cakes or croquettes, which are one of my favorites. Chowder, other types of soups or stews, like a cioppino or something. Fried rice. Fish fried rice is awesome. Tacos, which will absorb any leftover you throw into them deliciously. Melty sandwiches like tuna melts or Reubens or something like that.
Fish Reubens.
Yeah, so good. And because it's leftover... because it's like got so much going on in that sandwich, the leftover ness of that fish isn't going to ruin it by any means. You can do fish or potato patties, pastas with a cream sauce, like a nice kind of pasta alfredo with flaked fish in it, put in right at the very end. Fish salads, fish dips, smoked fish breakfast hash. You can actually grind fish into pate, which can be really interesting, especially with some different like Japanese flavors or cool flavors like that. Talking about Japanese, you can do sushi fillings or toppings as well. Bagel toppings with cream cheese, egg dishes like quiches or frittatas, or you can just make yourself a whole fish pie. And that uses some of those leftover mashed potatoes as well.
My new favorite fish reheat dish. It's Haitian, has a base sauce called épice. Essentially like your sort of like holy trinity plus spicy peppers, vinegar, green onions, a bunch of other stuff, and you just blend it and you get this like nice, not smooth consistency, it's a little chunky, and that's a base for a lot of Haitian sauces. So I've been taking that, throwing it into a pan, cooking pasta, taking whatever fish I have, throwing it into the pan, and doing like a take on scampi, so white wine and then butter to cream it at the end, pouring that over the pasta. Oh my God.
So good.
So good.
We also have those holiday sides, which I think just judging from my family's fridges and extended family's fridges, that the turkey goes quick. Turkey leftovers go really quick, but there's a big thing of mashed potatoes, a big thing of gravy, a big thing of cranberry sauce. They all sit in the back until they get tossed out. But you can transform those into delicious things. Like those mashed potatoes, like we said, you can waffle them. You can waffle anything. And it's going to taste really good. You can make potato pancakes with them for brunch. Like we said, shepherd's pie topping or a fish pie topping. You can turn them into potato bread, which is a great use for them. Or gnocchi. That stuffing or dressing can be transformed into dumplings. You can kind of fry it up as a crispy base for meaty gravy or stuffing Scotch eggs or waffles once again. It's you can even make like a panzanella salad out of it. So that's kind of like those Italian salads that use some leftover stale bread. You can use stuffing instead and kind of go with a holiday themed one. Those cranberry and wild fruit sauces can be turned into a barbecue sauce or a glaze, vinaigrette, salsas, like a taco with cranberry salsa. Or you can kind of go on the sweeter side with like a sweet breakfast topping or mixed into yogurt or granola or whatever. There's just so many different things you can do. I know we just rapid fired all those, and they're probably, unless you're trying to scribble them down with a pencil, it's going to be hard to keep up. So we'll post all of these suggestions in the show notes and probably on Instagram too. So you'll have them as a resource during the holidays. So it's not necessarily always wild, but turkey is one of the main things that people have for the holidays. And I'd like to know what you do with your turkey leftovers usually. Like, what's your favorite way to transform those?
Man, I think like a soup is going to be probably a really good way to just use it all. And that's one of those things too, given the time of year, it's pretty easy. And then also, it's really easy to feed a big crowd, and everybody can quickly like slurp down a bowl of soup and get back to whatever they're doing. So that works pretty well. So either light meat or dark meat, but I tend to lean on the dark meat side just because that ends up with like, I find it more moist and delicious. So what about you?
I do a few things. I'll usually make a soup if I have the carcass or enough kind of meat. And even if I don't have enough meat to make a soup with it, I'll make the stock and save it for something else.
Yep, that's also good too. Yeah, stocks for all kinds of things.
Yeah, just keep it in your freezer and use it when you need it, even just for making rice or something.
I even too, I think if you're talking about from a prep standpoint, sorry to interject, but I'll interject. So all the vegetable clippings from the whole like meal prep, just taking a Ziploc bag and putting them all in there and putting them in your freezer. And then whenever you're ready to make a vegetable stock or to add that to like meat for a stock, I think that's such a key part that I think ends up in either the compost bin or the trash can way too much. I learned that trick a restaurant I worked at in San Diego, and like everything, if it didn't have a sticker on it, then it like got chopped up and thrown aside in for a big giant vegetable stock.
Yeah, that's a great point. And something we missed about the leftovers is all the scraps.
Yeah,
that you end up with, like carrot peelings and onions and garlic and celery and those herb branches and stuff like that. Like all that stuff's great.
Especially buy those little plastic things of the herbs, and like you're like, I need one sprig, and you've got 15, and you're like, great, I can't possibly use all this before it goes bad. Throw it in a stock.
Yeah, don't throw a whole thing of rosemary in your stock though. That might be a little.
Do it.
Might be a little strong. You can also dry those too, which I often do. Just hang them in your kitchen. But with turkey beyond the soup and the stock, for me, I really like taking the breast, slicing it thin, and doing like a hot numbing Sichuan salad with it. So it's like just. Fisha Dunlap, I think, posted a recipe online for it a long time ago, but it's kind of like this really spicy Sichuan chili oil sauce draped all over the turkey, and you just eat it cold or hot. It's so good. So usually just something like that. You can mix it with noodles or just eat it on its own. And then with some of the other leftovers, I'll make cold sandwiches, and then I'll make hot sandwiches. So it's the only time of year we buy a loaf of Wonder Bread, because there's no other bread that can be used for these sandwiches that we make. And it's just kind of like a sandwich with like one of those processed cheese slices, your turkey, stuffing, whatever else, what other leftover you have, mashed potatoes, whatever. And then you just drench the whole top. You put the top sandwich on, drench the whole thing in leftover gravy, and then heat that up. And it's just like this sloppy, nostalgic mess. And we have that every year that we have turkey. So that's kind of what we do with it. It's not fancy, but it's transformed, and it's absolutely delicious.
Ooh, man, I like it. I like this. This is a good one. I think there's one thing I hope listeners take away from this: leftovers don't have to be boring. Whether you're working with wild game, fish, holiday sides, domestic meats, whatever, there's always a way to turn yesterday's meal into something brand new. And I think this time of year is exceptionally ideal for that, just for the fact that you've got Christmas one week, and the next week you've got New Year's, or you've got the stretch of Hanukkah, then you've got Christmas, then you've got New Year's, whatever holiday party you're throwing. Like, I can't hit them all, but in the order, I don't know, but they're all there. Enjoy the time, and if you're lucky enough to have wild leftovers in your fridge, you're already winning. But the only question is, what's your next meal going to tell? What's the story it brings to the table? If you create something cool for your leftovers, send it to us, tag us. We'd love to see what you're making this holiday season. And be sure to check out the show notes for lots of awesome leftover ideas. Also, roll back in time, listen to our Wild Kitchen episodes. Those are really great, really fun. Let you get deep dive into particular types of dishes, everyday meals to use more of your wild game. But thanks everybody for listening. Whatever podcast platform you are listening on, please punch that 5-star button. Leave us a review. Tell us we're doing right. Or tell us that holiday leftovers go somewhere else. Thanks, everybody. Good night.